We are live here on sampletext.info. I'm James Lowe, Jigman Freud, and tonight on Sampletext we have some interesting banter, interesting guests. It's our last live Sampletext of the season, with the political elections coming up in November. If we do any more sample texts the rest of the year, they'll be taped, but they'll, of course, end up on sampletext.info within a day or so. Tonight we have some local topics and election stuff as well. And by the way, no one will get their head stepped on this evening for speaking out. So unless it's me, but that's just our friends across the street doing that. Now, we've got Keith Davies over here. I want to start out, let these guys introduce themselves. Keith, go ahead and give us a brief introduction, my friend.
Keith Davies, campaign manager, political advisor for Ken Cannon, Reform Party candidate for governor. Also in my home improvement sales to make a living. The political part is not paying me any money. It's just a lot of satisfaction.
Mike Mattson, Salina boy, born and raised, landlord and furniture maker and general hand.
Neil Generalski. I ran against Charlie Roth in the Republican primary as a Tea Party conservative Republican. I've lived in Salina 34 years now.
Now, since we've all got kind of a local people here, I will start out with the most heated local issue, and that is this river project. Mike, give us your thoughts on that. There's been a lot of controversy for it and against it, and all sorts of mess.
Let me qualify by saying that I'm with Friends of the River.
Yeah.
And so I'm very involved on a day-to-day basis with the project, and very enthusiastic about it. I think it's a chance, maybe a chance that won't come again for some time, to clean up this hideous mess that goes through our town that used to be a beautiful river, and restore it and make an asset out of what now is a disgusting mosquito-breeding swamp. So,
are you for it or against it, J. Neal?
I have already voted. I voted Monday,
yeah.
And I voted no.
Yeah.
I was on the 1980 Salina City River Development Committee when they looked at it one time. And I'm the one that suggested to the mayor at the time to open up the gate and let the water flow through the city. And then the city decided, surprisingly, their water wells recharged because the stream was running past the wells.
Yeah.
So, but right now, I don't think that the way the economy is that we should spend a $0.25 on new sales tax.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think? What do you think they should? I know that there's that seems to be the reaction I'm hearing from people. They want it, but they don't want it now.
Well, I think that attitude is one of being penny wise and pound foolish. Now is a time when construction costs will be competitive, material costs will be competitive. Everybody wants work, so they'll be very competitive in their bids. It'll be a job creator. And so now, and from that point of view, we'll be saving money as opposed to kicking it down the road. This is a job that has to be done. That river will not flow. I mean, you can open up the gates all you want. The river will not flow anymore. It has to be dredged out. It's completely plugged at the culvert on Ohio Street north of Crawford. It's plugged. Any water that comes through there that gets into the Oakdale Park area just merely percolates through all the trash and silt that's there. So it's completely plugged. You cannot flush that river out by opening up the gates. You just can't do it. And so it's a different situation now than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And 20 or 30 years from now, it will be unmanageable. So we've got to get with it. And the costs, 1/4 of a cent per dollar figures out to be 25 cents for every $100 spent. And that for the average taxpayer, that would be about 73 cents a week, or about $38 a year. For $38 a year, we get a completely revitalized river. I can't imagine a better deal than that.
What do you think of that? Are you convinced now?
No.
Okay.
I still think that with the 1 cent sales tax the state put on, which I was against, and now a quarter cent here, and someone else will come up with some temporary tax on for something else, like possibly the county juvenile facility, which needs to be expanded, and we just keep adding 1%, quarter percent to sales tax, and I think what we have to do right now is live within the budget. And one thing I'd like to point out is back when I was on the river committee, there was a big discussion on changing the Iron Street Bridge to a box culvert. And the city commission had several discussions on it before they decided to put the box in. And now, as part of the river project, we're taking the box that they put in 20 years ago out and putting a bridge back in.
Mike?
Go ahead.
Keith, jump in there.
I'm not local Salina in person. I'm originally from Hutchinson, Kansas, living in Lincoln, Kansas right now. But I will make two comments.
Yeah.
One is an observation of your Kenwood Cove swimming pool.
Yeah.
It was put off for several years. If it would have been built at the time that they had a chance to build theirs in Salina, at the time Hutchinson built the Salt City Splash, they could have done it for approximately $4 million. Ended up costing $12 million. So by putting it off, it's going to cost 3 times more to do the river project later, because sooner or later they will do it. I promise you that. That doesn't mean I'm always for it. I'm just stating a fact, a figure. But the other point of view is when you're raising sales taxes, I have another point of view that people haven't thought of. We have a Hawker Beechcraft plant where 2,243 jobs were lost. Why not make a job creator, and let's go after those jobs. Let's use that for an incentive, some kind of stimulus, to bring in industry like Winnebago, aviation, wind energy products. Let's bring in jobs first. Let's get our job market situated. And then Exide, losing jobs, probably because of the Walmart contract with batteries. We need to provide incentives right now to bring the job market back up to Salina, which will automatically take care of the income and taxes for the city to be able to expand. But the point of view is if they're going to pass the river project, and it's definitely going to do it, that point of view is go ahead with it. Otherwise, it's going to cost you 3 times more. This is just an honest observation. But I still say that money could be put to use for job creation right now.
Yeah.
This is my point of view that I think would make a wise observation from the outside.
Well, as an outsider, looking at this whole thing, what do you think with the people that have the not now attitude, and then the people with the attitude of we need to do it right now?
First of all, from my observation, it's going to get passed.
Yeah.
So darn it, let's put the let's just put it aside. Let's just pass it, because it's going to be done anyway. Sooner or later, the thing about it is it'll create 342 jobs. The question is how much does it take to maintain it later? But I still say if there was a way to find stimulus dollars, I'd say let's go get the stimulus dollars. Let's create the jobs for Hawker Beechcraft facility. Let's go ahead and pass the river project, because it's going to get done sooner or later anyway.
Well, yeah.
So let's just go ahead and let's do it. Let's get it over with. But darn it, sooner or later we do have to put some kind of a freeze on raising taxes. Salina's up to about 8.2%. Hutchinson's 8.005. The town I was in yesterday, Hayes, 8.9%, which is the highest in the state approximately.
Yeah.
So I say it's going to be done. Don't pay triple later.
What do you think about that?
Well, on the maintenance cost, I believe in the paper they had published that it was going to be something a little less than $500,000 a year maintenance, and 3 or 4, I believe, permanent employees. I believe the 300 and some employees are construction, and they're going to be here for the work and gone. And after that, it's only going to be 2 or 3 new employees.
Let me say this, like again, from the outsider looking in, I have never seen a project that's government ever stay within the budget. I have take Social Security during the Johnson administration, the Great Society. What has it gone up? 300% more than they ever expected? Have you ever seen something stay within budget? Truthfully, I haven't.
Well, actually, Kenwood Cove came in considerably below budget, and one of the reasons for that was because of the economic climate, that they got some better, more competitive bids than they figured they would. And I think the same thing applies here.
Hutchinson, if I may add, to the point that he's making, it paid for itself, by the way, in 4 years. So
There'll be a lot of peripheral advantages to this. I mean, we're talking about a river that runs through, the fact of the matter is, it's running through a declining part of town. You know, and that means declining property tax levies. That means declining home ownership. That means empty storefronts. You know, that means increased potential for fires. That increased potential for vandalism. This river project runs through 7 miles of river through town, on towards which a quarter of the town drains during storms, about 5 square miles. So that river is considered absolutely crucial to the drainage of a quarter of this town.
Okay.
Right now, it can't even do that. Sooner or later, and this is not official, nobody is saying this, but sooner or later, somebody is going to look at that river and they're going to think, maybe we ought to reinvestigate the floodplain maps of Salina, Kansas. And that
I did the original ones.
That is really going to, then people are really going to start to squeal.
Mike, may I add, when I first came to this town in 1984 to sell my home improvement products, the first thing I noticed, to the point that he's making to justify it, because I am not a Salina native. I did live here for 4 years, but you two know it better than I do, the drainage. I do know that when I went down by the college, Wesleyan, around Gephardt, Simmons streets, I'd go down and try to get in there. It was completely flooded. So if it has anything to do with drainage, they've already tried to do some things. If they can incorporate the drainage in and the flooding, I would say let's make sure that definitely is added into it, for sure, if you're going to do it.
And that's the big thing I keep hearing, is that the whole town's going to flood and all sorts
Eventually.
of things.
It's going to be like Fargo, North Dakota, or New Orleans, because there's problems with the levee system that the city doesn't want to recognize.
Yeah.
There's weak points from 9th Street on the Saline Mulberry Creek levee around to State Street Road on the Mulberry Dry Creek levee. There's zero freeboard. Freeboard, the levee is designed for 100-year or is supposed to be certified for 100-year protection. Well, that portion of the levee from 9th Street around to State Street Road, particularly at State Street Road, North Street, zero freeboard for the 100-year flood, because I did the calculations that's in the FEMA study and calculated the water surface. So the city really needs, if they're going to have the levee certified, raise that portion of the levee 3 feet, because of the minimum freeboard that FEMA will accept is 3 foot. When I did the Saline County Salina flood insurance study that was published in '86, while I was at Booker, Willis, and Ratliff here in Salina, I got a letter from the Kansas City District of the Corps saying, even though there was no freeboard on that portion of the levee, the Kansas City Corps certified it at the levee system for 100-year protection. I cannot see any professional engineer, which I am, putting his name and seal and future life income on the line for that portion of the levee. So I don't think that the levee can be certified. And then there's some other places like Holmquist sand pit area, Knox sand pit area, where the sand runs underneath the levee. You get the Smoky Hill River flowing up and out of the banks like it hasn't done really since the levee has been constructed for any time. That water is going to seep through that sand underneath the levee and come up in those sand pits and fill the sand pits up. Then they're going to start overflowing into the other parts of the city. And then there's one place where the Corps of Engineers in Kansas City warned me when I was doing the study was East Crawford. When the levee system was built, East Crawford wasn't developed the way it is, or wasn't built up the way it is now. You know, it's an embankment essentially from the levee to the bridge, then an embankment to the bluff on the east. When the levee system was designed, that was all floodplain area where the embankments are. So if you get a high enough flow in the Smoky Hill River, that embankment is going to cause backup of water. And the Kansas City Corps said this could be a problem.
Mike?
I'm just beyond my area of expertise. I can't speak
beyond
to
your pay grade.
Yeah, I can't speak to that at all.
One thing else I'll put in that no one has worried about is the breach analysis that was done on Canopolis Reservoir. What would happen to Salina? You have to take into account Canopolis Reservoir was closed or the embankment finished in the late, I believe it was 49.
Yeah.
1949. And then in 51, during the 51 flood, it was 2/10 of a foot from using the emergency spillway.
Well, they had sandbagged it.
And the Corps sandbagged the emergency spillway to hold more water.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 93, it was within 1 inch of using the emergency spillway. That's about 50 years apart.
Yeah.
Or 40 years apart, excuse me. So there is a good chance that emergency spillway at Canopolis is going to be used. And if it is, it's an earth spillway. It's going to look like Tuttle Creek in Milford after the 93 flood with the erosion of the spillway, if the dam holds. But in the Corps' breach analysis of the dam, the Corps says that the breach wave coming down from Canopolis will go all the way from the bluff on the east to the airport on the west. It's going to take out the Salina levee. And no one ever brings this up, that there has been a study done that says that during a breach of the Canopolis, the levee system won't hold.
Well, let's hope it doesn't breach. I assume that it was designed not to breach. I don't know.
Well, Keith, you're campaign manager for Kincannon off and on. You're now back on as his campaign manager. One thing I want to start off, a lot of people are there's a close race for all this nonsense of trying to get different people elected and governors and things of that nature, and there's a lot of people who think Brownback is pretty much just going to walk right on in there. And last month when we had the Libertarians on here, they both said that they don't want to win. They just want to get third-party status. That's their goal. What do you think Brownback's got a shot at just walking in there, or do you think that it's going to be a tight race with him and Tom Holland and everybody else?
The latest poll that I seen, which came out just within a couple of days, the latest one I seen ranged anywhere from 56% all the way to almost 70%.
Yeah.
Survey USA, they talked to 900 some people. 700 and some were registered voters. Only 500 and some said that they would possibly and probably more than likely vote. 56% of Kansans indicated they would probably vote for Brownback. Approximately, let's just say 30% for Holland. It was a little bit higher than that. They said anywhere ranged from 4 to 6% margin of error. So it could be anywhere from 28 to 34% for Holland. The last one they only had was 4% for Kincannon, 3% for Andrew Gray. My thinking is here, I worked almost 200 miles door to door. The indications I get in everywhere I've ever gone, 9 out of 10 people, truthfully, said they did not like Brownback, would not vote for Brownback. So I have a hard time taking the Channel 12 poll by Survey USA they used. It's hard for me to imagine that poll being that accurate when I'm amongst the people every day, door to door, door to door, door to door, like today Beloit, yesterday Hayes, and I probably, at the most, maybe 2 people that I actually talked to personally said they'd vote for Brownback. 2 people specifically said, one today and one yesterday, an older lady in Beloit told me she definitely did not vote for Brownback. She said her son in Wichita said, if we get Brownback, we're going to be set back 50 to 100 years. Yesterday I had a Fort Hays student lady a little girl by the name of Jordan, who's already voted. She didn't vote for Brownback. So what I'm saying is, I have a hard time.
So it's not a law.
I don't take polls when there are 900 some people totally interviewed. Where did they interview them at, first of all? If they go to Ellis, Kansas, Hayes, Lincoln, did they go to...
Now, why is it they never, when they do polls, they never say where they... we just polled people.
I don't know, maybe you can answer a question.
But let me answer the question you asked. And I thank you for getting me back, Mike. I definitely got to answer this. Andrew Gray, Stacey Davis, who was in here last month, and it was the greatest interview and debate we've ever had, like Mike Mattson says here. And I agree with him. And so did you, James. Here's the thing I'm going to say. I didn't go out here and work 35,000 miles with my vehicle and wear it out almost. I didn't put thousands of dollars into this to go out and make a good showing for poll numbers like Andrew Gray and them to be a legitimate, qualified party. Look, today was a day talking to Associated Press, Kansas City Star, that was so discouraging to me. It was depressing. I'll be totally honest with you. I had to fight and argue with them and say that, I'm in this to win it.
Did they not want to cover the story?
They did not want to cover the story. Sunday they gave a full page to Sam Brownback and Tom Holland. I had to fight with WIBW TV radio to try to get into the debate at the state fair. They said no, only the Democrat and the Republican. There's 430,000 people went to the state fair that should have had a chance to at least listen to the third-party candidates' ideas, vision for Kansas, and make Brownback and Holland at least answer their policies, their ideas for Kansas. I did not get in this to not get any media. I found out how much the media pushes the Democrat and the Republican parties. I'm very discouraged the fact that we can go out here and we can work day in, day out, day out, day in. And our forefathers wanted people like door-to-door salesmen, landowners like Mike Mattson, landlords. They wanted people like you, the moderator. They wanted this gentleman across the street, across from me, that ran against Roth. They wanted everyday people that are engineers, doctors, lawyers, door-to-door salesmen, waitresses. They wanted people in government that were everyday people. They did not want these multimillionaires to spend $2.3 million like Brownback or $600,000 like Tom Holland. We spent $6,000. And I'm going to tell you right now, what should be done is they should have 5 major debates on TV. They can have all the debates they want on radio. But let's do something about the campaign money that is spent. I would like it to know where it comes from, how it's going to be used, what kind of... I'll give you an example real quick. Like the clean coal plant, Holcomb, Kansas, will heat with energy and cool 443,000 homes. 78% of that energy is going to Colorado. Denver, Colorado is where Tri-State Energy is from. They back Sunflower Electric. It will take 392 billion, I didn't say million, gallons of water to heat all of these homes that will actually go into Colorado. 22% of it only stays in Kansas. I say, let's create jobs, let's create energy from Kansas resources, let's keep it in Kansas. Brownback happened to get all the campaign donations from Claire Coggins from Sunflower Electric. When I called her, she said, Sam Brownback is our friendly incumbent. If you happen to win the campaign, we'll wipe out your campaign debts, and you can be our friendly incumbent.
Now, why is that it seems like the Republican and the Democrat seem to always dominate, and there's not like a third party that can get in there? Is it like Keith was saying, the money, or is it?
No, it's the probability. I mean, independent parties there's not just one of them. There are 2 or 3. Where do you cut off? I mean, you could have 20 people on a stage, on
that too,
possibly.
Yeah.
You could have, and where do you cut it off? You cut it off at where it's most likely that one of those on stage will become the winner. So, and I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying that that's how they figure it.
Yeah. Well, you're right, Mike. First of all, you hit it right on the head. Number one, the way I looked at it when I argued my case for the WWW debate at the State Fair, it's a public event, my hometown. How are you going to get major party status? It's like a catch-22. If you can't get into the debates and give your vision for Kansas, and you can't get your donations, how do you ever become a major party and actually
become a major party?
But here's the problem, and Mike hit it right on the head. I said to Robin and Megan from WWW when I argued this, Kelly Lynn's WWW, I said, well, why not at least take the third party that has the most support that year, at least in the polls?
Yeah.
Which this particular year, it was the Reform Party candidate. Robin comes back and says, Keith, you would fight that no matter what every year. You would fight till the day you die to still get your candidate in there. He's right, but it is true. I did recommend that the one with the most support at least get included in the debates.
Well, you ran as
Well, I ran as a Republican.
You ran as a Republican, but they called you something else.
I had it listed as a Tea Party conservative Republican.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm doing this year, and I'll continue next year, is our congressional representatives, every vote they make, I put on the web. And there's a record of how they voted on the web. And I'm going to take that and do the same thing for the Kansas legislature this coming year, particularly the candidates from this area here that get elected, so that the local people can see how they're voting. Because as a Tea Party conservative, the idea was to run a candidate against moderate to liberal Republicans, or Republicans that's referred to as rhinos, Republicans in name only.
Yeah.
And try to get these individuals out of the legislature.
Yeah.
But after the primary, the overall idea was to go ahead and support one or the other parties. What we want to do is in the next year keep an eye on who's elected.
Yeah.
And see how they vote compared to what we are looking for as Tea Party conservatives. And if the ones elected are not doing what we expect them to be doing, or what they say they were going to do, don't be surprised if maybe in 2 years there is a Tea Party third party to challenge both the Republicans and Democrats, because neither party is really representing the people. Once they get elected, they go off on their own.
Yeah. Well, Mike, we've talked about that a couple times on here. The campaign ads where the guy goes, "Well, I'm not a politician. I'm just like you," and everything. To his point, do you think that there will ever be a third party that is like a Tea Party that goes against the Republicans and the Democrats and everything? Or
well, there has been. Ross Perot tried that.
Yeah.
And Ralph Nader tried it with the Green Party, and got a little bit of traction. But I think really, historically, what happens is that one of the major parties just weakens and weakens and weakens, like the Whigs, and is finally taken over by a new movement, and is renamed. But as far as 30%, 30%, three parties, I don't know. Maybe it could happen, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Well, I got passed a note. I feel like I'm in high school here. I have to read it in front of the entire class. Apparently, this is to Keith's point. The press is the fifth column. It is not controlled by government and never should be. The press can invite who they wish on TV shows. Your rebuttal, sir.
It is true. It is true. According to WBW, they said that they had a case that went to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
That they're an individually owned company, WBW TV and radio. This is why they said they were running the debate, putting it on at the State Fair. So that is true, that it is a private ownership. They have the right to do this. But also, it is also true, since I am a Kansas native and a hometown Hutchinson boy, that I think anybody I've ever talked to at any station, radio, newspaper, or any person I've ever talked to agreed with me on this case. It's a state fair event for the citizens of Kansas. They go there, every one of them I've ever talked to get educated on business, farm products, agriculture, whatever. They go there to find out the facts and the figures from the booth, politically, from business, for everything from butter to politics. They go there. And the thing about it is,
I love those lines. Every month, last month you were wanting to get assassinated. Now you're talking about butter and politics. You are great, Keith.
The point of it is, it goes from all the way to the sculptured butter that they do every year
to the butter
to the politics. My point is, they go there to be educated.
Yeah.
430,000 people. So technically, really, it is not put on by an individual corporation. If it was at the studios, yes. But this is at the state fair. And I think most people would agree with me There's a difference if the Supreme Court was to rule on an event at the state fair versus in the studio.
Is that
Did your party have a booth there?
Yes, we did, and it was at the fence on the outside. I paid for the booth, by the way, and so we were represented there. But Brownback was represented there. Tom Holland was represented there. But it still goes back to one thing: the idea that the debate was in the Farm Bureau Arena, sponsored this year by Brett's law firm. So if the Kansas public are going to go there, they need to listen to the candidates. If Ken Cannon or Andrew Gray was not on the ballot officially, then I would say yes, you have a valid point. But when they're on the ballot and authorized by the Secretary of State's office, and they say, well, you got to be a official party with 5%. Well, how are you going to get 5% of the vote? How are you going to get your donations if not being able to go and put your platform out there?
But it's kind of like Mike was saying, where you have like at some point 50 dudes up there.
Then you cut it off. But you do have a legitimate party as a reform party, like he said, Ross Perot.
Yeah.
Look at Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
He was polled at 7% early in the campaign, ended up with 37%, won the state of Minnesota. He beat Norm Coleman 37% to 34%. Hubert Humphrey III was 28%. And lo and behold, they did not even interview Jesse Ventura, the media, till the day after the election when they found out that he won. Pat Buchanan ran as a Reform Party candidate. So what I'm saying is, if it's of the people, by the people, I say it's not by the people, by the people's vote. It is true, he who has the money gets the election.
So what do we think around the table here about the Supreme Court decision to allow corporate funding of campaigns?
Yeah.
I didn't hear it.
What do we say about the recent Supreme Court ruling that allows corporate and union funding of campaigns?
I really don't think unions and corporations should be. It should be individuals that fund the campaign. You probably wouldn't get as much money in the campaign, but it would be coming from the voters and not people that could sway a candidate. I'm really against a lot of the PACs too, because they give money to the candidates expecting favors from those candidates when they're elected.
Well, that's why everybody votes for one person or another. They expect their point of view to prevail.
Mike Mattson, that was a beautiful question. I like the way you put that, and I'm going to answer it real simple because I'm in the middle, and I've been on both sides of the fence watching this. Anybody that has listened to national radio or TV, whether it be Fox, MSNBC, CNN, any person you'd walk up to right now and say, corporations funding campaigns? Republican. Automatically, they'll say that in their mind. They'll even say it out loud.
And if it's union, it's Democrat.
Union, it's Democrat. It's automatically union if it's Democrat. So the Republicans bicker and argue about the unions. And at one time, they had their place and purpose. Under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, how many people would have argued that it took a person, a one-income family earner, to move them up to middle class? It was a perfect situation at the time it was developed. Now, I'm not going to argue the point if it's outlived its usefulness or not. I don't know. I do know one thing, though. It becomes a Republican and a Democrat issue as far as the media and the political surface that we live in, the environment. The truth is, again, I'm going to use an analogy that Ken uses. If I'm coaching basketball, and I've got a Democrat and a Republican out there on the basketball court, and there's 5 players, and we're in it to win it, and there's a Democrat underneath a basket, and he's open for a layup, and that Republican will not pass him the ball, I'm calling a timeout. I'm going to set those 2 guys on the bench, and when they can learn to argue out of the arena a little bit together, I'm going to put them back on the floor. If they're still arguing and fighting, I'm kicking them off the team. And that's where we are right now in this political environment. It's time to make a change.
I was inadvertently listening to Sean Hannity today on the radio.
Wait,
Kind of
I need oxygen. You
Well,
listen to Sean.
The guys at work had a radio on.
Was your radio broke? Were you bored? Were you tied up somewhere? Mike Matson listening to Sean Hannity. Next, you're going to tell me you have a Rush Limbaugh membership to his website.
Well, they had John Boehner on, and he said, absolutely, if when he becomes Speaker of the House, it's not if, but when, he becomes Speaker of the House, he absolutely will not, under any circumstances, compromise.
See, this is the thing.
How is that? You know, and so what if the other guy? What if the other guy says? What if the other guy says, I absolutely, under no circumstances, will compromise? So then what happens?
Well, see, I keep hearing this out of some of the Tea Party guys, is that they're like, well, if we get a good enough Tea Party people in there, we're gonna shut the government down if they don't want to work with us. We're gonna try to prove Obama's a Muslim. You know, they've got all these things they're gonna do, and it's like, why can't we do like when the Republicans got in when Clinton was at the White House? They all worked together, and there's a surplus, and
I don't know. It's just
sorts of stuff,
it's a
but now
bizarre atmosphere out there right now, and I just, you know, I suppose it'll pass. All things pass, you know. But right now, it's weird. It's just very strange.
This is the same John Boehner from Ohio,
the tan man,
senator.
as they call him.
This is the same John Boehner that has not ever wrote an earmark, but in 1994, he stood on the Senate floor and handed every senator, representative, a check from the tobacco lobbyist.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Because they branded you a Tea Party guy, but you were running as a Republican. What do you think all these like Linda McMahon in Connecticut says that we need to get rid of the minimum wage because there's too many people in the country making too much money on minimum wage. There's
I don't know how you make too much money on minimum wage.
I'm like, who are some of these people? Where do you guys come down on some of these odd?
Well, we've got kind of a comical situation of the Republicans all voting against the stimulus plan.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of them didn't, but and then from Minnesota Barbara down to Texas, they're all now advertising that they have acquired stimulus money and that the stimulus money is creating jobs in their state, therefore vote for me. I voted against the stimulus, but now I'm using stimulus money to actually create jobs, so vote for me, even though the stimulus is a failure.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of a comical situation.
Where do you come down on some of these? You know, I was watching. Well, okay, if you can listen to Hannity, I can watch MSNBC. Earlier today, they were talking about. They had somebody on there, and they were saying, why is it that we get the Democrats in, and then we throw them out, and we get the Republicans in, and then we throw them out, and we put the Democrats in, and when are people going to realize that you just can't throw people out in waves? Being, you know, you ran in a primary and things of that nature. Where do you see all that? Do you think we should work together, or do you think we should just do this constant, just throw them out every once in a while?
Well, I don't think that this you going back and forth throwing them out is going to work.
Yeah.
There's going to the vote or 2 parties, 3 parties. There's going to have to be some compromise at some point.
Yeah.
And a lot of what's going on is no compromise at all. And whoever has the most representatives or senators passes whatever they want.
Yeah.
And that's what really needs to change, is come up with bills that both sides can support and you don't just have one side because they have the numbers passing the bills.
Yeah.
That's why, say, the Tea Party this year said, we'll run against the candidates in the primary. A lot of them then, in the general election, we're going to support the Republicans, to get change. But they're keeping track of what these Republicans do in the first year, next year, and then when the 2012 election comes around, they want to be in position either to support those candidates again or find, say, a third party candidate to compete with both the Democrats and Republicans to try to get change in the way things are going in Congress and in the legislatures. With the two-party system, just the majority rules.
Yeah. Keith, jump in there, Mike.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's right, except that generally if you break down a national election, it's half liberal, half conservative.
Yeah.
If, a landslide for the president is something like 54% against 43%. That's called a landslide, but it's really, there's about half on one side and half on the other side.
Yeah.
So half of the American public loses, So how can that be sustainable? You have to make half that loses not feel like they're out, otherwise when they get back in office, they're like they're trying to do now with health care. They say if they're going to get back in office, the Republicans get back in office, they're going to repeal health care. Well, what good is it for it to ever have been passed in the first place? If they're just going to, it has to be something that is a compromise that enough people across the country can believe in, so that it will, they can sustain it, so that it will last, so that it will go down through the years instead of being bounced back and forth, kicked in one year, kicked out the next year. Nothing like that can work.
Yeah.
I go back to my feeling that politics is an honorable profession, and it takes certain kinds of skills to be able to go together, sit down at a table, and work something out so that there's a little something in there for everybody. And compromise is the golden rule there.
Yeah. Well, Keith, where do you come down on? Because I know that you've been involved with campaigns. You've been a political fan for eons. Where do you come down with the tossing them out, getting them back in, tossing them out, getting them back in kind of?
Well, there's a perfect example in the healthcare. Massachusetts.
Yeah.
George Romney, Scott Brown, Republicans.
Yeah.
And a bipartisan Congress in Massachusetts came down with a program called the Commonwealth Exchange. They got 7 insurance companies together to bid on the contracts for the private individuals and the small businesses. The lowest bid you were allowed to take. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and take a separate one, you had that choice. It has not gone up in price at all in 4 years. The only time it went up is when 26-year-olds were allowed to be put on their parents' policy. Now, the big difference is they did not have 9,000 earmarks on the bill. My point of view is Nixon wanted health care. He knew it needed it. The Republicans admit they know we need it. The majority of people, by majority, know we need it.
Yeah.
The Republicans are just chomping at the bits. We want it back in there. Please, give us another chance. We're going to change it. We're going to do what we should have done from 1994 to 2006. But now the Democrats get in there. They know we need it. We've only got a little bit of time to do it in. Let's do it even if it costs us elections. The thing is, it is true. We do need health care overhaul. The problem is, You can't allow a company like Blue Cross Anthem out of Indiana to go to California and Kentucky and Indiana, raise their rates, double, triple, quadruple. All you do is raise the rates. You have more uninsured people. What happens is the more the rates are, the higher it is on small businesses, the more strain it puts on them to do away with their insurance premiums covered for their employees. The problem is it becomes more of a copay. Sooner or later, you got thousands and thousands of businesses going under strictly because of health care.
Yeah.
So the solution is, Mike said it, let's work together, even if it does
compromise.
At least even if it takes a third party. It is true.
Yeah.
Somewhere somebody's got to at least set a statement, even if it's third party now.
Yeah.
But it is true. Mike said it's an art to be a politician. Most people say, I don't like them. Every time I talk to somebody, they say they're corrupt, they're no good, they're liars. The reason everybody says they're liars and corrupt is because all they see is bickering, hate. When the day comes...
And they're millionaires.
Yeah.
Yes. Whenever we start putting back in people, of the people, by the people, not by the people, B-U-I, when we start getting the media to give everybody the proper attention, when we start making each candidate liable for what he or she says, does, or collects, the day that this comes about, this is the day. It's kind of like Christianity versus Muslim. There's only one God, and when we all realize that there's only one God, the world will be a lot safer place. There'll be a lot less wars.
Well, let's. I'm going to give each of you guys a chance to wrap it up here. We'll start over here. Tell me about what. Give me your early prediction of what you think is going to happen with the Congress and the House and everything. Is it going to be a landslide one way or another? Or?
I think that, or I guess I'll say I hope.
Okay.
Right now, with the two-party system that we have, that Republicans take over the House and the Senate in Congress. And as a Tea Party person, I'm going to keep track of them. And if they're not coming up with and supporting what they said they were going to support, we're going to challenge them in 2 years.
You guys keep them honest.
We want to keep them honest.
Yeah.
And as was mentioned, I think we need to get compromise in the system. Not this do it my way or I'm going to take the ball home and we were not going to play anymore.
Yeah. Now, Mike, I'm assuming you probably disagree with the "I want the Republicans back in" notion.
Well, I'd just make this observation that the worst, from my point of view, from the Democrats' point of view, the worst possible scenario, I think, would be for the Democrats to just narrowly hold on to the House and Senate, because they would have control of Congress, but in name only.
Yeah.
And so they would continue to get blamed for everything, would not be able to get anything done, and for the Democrats, that would be the worst, I think, the worst possible scenario.
Yeah.
Real quick statement to end it.
Wrap it up.
Is what I want to see is Republicans take back the majority for one reason only. I want to see hate from the other side on radio. I am so tired. I am so tired of turning on the radio every day, and all I hear is hate, hate, hate the Democrats, hate the president. I want to see if it turns back the other tide again. Let's see some reversals and hate.
Rush Limbaugh is not going to go register as a Democrat.
That's right.
If you're thinking the hate's going to end, Keith.
No, but
I hear you, brother.
You see my point, don't you?
I see on that.
But there's a group that's looking at, instead of John Boehner being speaker, is Michelle Bachmann of Minnesota.
Oh,
Wouldn't you just love that?
Just love that? I mean, if you're looking for entertainment and circus, I suppose that would be just wonderful.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing this. Thanks for being on tonight, Keith. You're backing your guy Ken Cannon all the way to Election Day, and what are you doing the next? You're just going to be out on the road, right?
Yes, I'm door to door for the next several days. Hayes, Colby, maybe as far as Oakley. I need to wrap it up in those towns. The way I look at it real quickly, is first of all, I think what we need to do is secure the border, support Arizona. We need to also hold these politicians liable for hawker Beechcraft. We need to also figure whether or not these politicians are going to come out with no pork barrel spending again, like John Boehner.
Well, that's one good thing I like about you guys. Both agree on that. You got to keep the politicians honest, and that's pretty cool. And Mike, I appreciate it as always.
Vote for the river.
Vote for the river, and no Michelle Bachmann in Congress. That would be good. You are right. That is a circus. Yeah. Response on the river
got
thing?
the evidence, don't you?
Well, I say no on the river, and I think maybe Michelle would be a good speaker.
She'd be good for laughs, that's for sure.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for doing this, and we will see you with live sample text beginning in January of next year, and we'll be on from time to time on sampletext.info with probably an election wrap-up. There you go. Freudian slip, ladies and gentlemen! An election erection on sampletext.info. Good night.
Don't forget to vote.
I'm going to get the hell out of here before I do any more damage to my reputation.
If you don't vote, don't bitch.
That's right.